Did you ever hear about the Alpine goat who climbed a tree to get a better view of the mountains? Yeah, he got stuck up there and had to call the fire brigade. Just kidding. Goats can't dial numbers. Welcome to the captivating world of alpine goats, where the terrain is steep, the air is thin, and the goats are climbing trees? Yes, alpine goats, or Capra ibex if you're feeling scientific, are as intriguing as they are misunderstood. Our journey today takes us through the alpine pastures, rocky cliffs, and yes, even treetops as we debunk some of the most hilarious myths about these agile creatures. From eating habits to swimming capabilities, from playful headbutting to their supposed lack of intelligence, we'll uncover the truth hidden under the thick woolen coat of these mountain dwellers. So, whether you're a goat enthusiast, a curious learner, or just here for a good laugh, we've got something for everyone. So buckle up, folks, as we dive into the world of alpine goats where things aren't always as they seem. You've probably heard the myth that goats will eat just about anything, right? Well, here's the scoop. An alpine goat is not a recycling bin. Yes, we're serious. You're not going to find an alpine goat munching on an old boot or happily digesting a tin can. This is a common misconception that has been perpetuated by countless cartoons and well-meaning but misinformed folks. In reality, alpine goats are pretty picky eaters. They're more like the food critics of the animal kingdom than the garbage disposals they're often made out to be. These goats have a strong sense of curiosity which leads them to taste various items in their environment. This is not because they're planning to chow down on your old bicycle or rusted garden tools, but rather because they use their mouths to explore the world around them, much like toddlers do. This behavior is often misinterpreted as them attempting to eat non-food items, hence the myth. When it comes to their actual diet, alpine goats prefer a gourmet selection of fresh vegetation. They enjoy a variety of grasses, shrubs, and leaves. In fact, they're quite fond of broadleaf plants and woody vines, showing a preference for these oversimple grasses. They're also known to scale great heights to nibble on the tender leaves of trees. Talk about going the extra mile for a good meal. Alpine goats also require a balanced diet to maintain their health and vitality. This includes a mix of grains, hay, and fresh water, along with essential vitamins and minerals. They're not going to find these necessary nutrients in your old newspapers or discarded soda cans. So let's put that myth to bed once and for all. Alpine goats don't eat everything in sight. They're discerning diners with a taste for fresh, nutritious food. So if you were planning to hire an alpine goat as your personal garbage disposal, you might want to reconsider. Ever heard the tale that alpine goats can't swim? Well, it's time to make a splash with the truth. Now, if you've ever tried to coax an alpine goat into a pool or a river, you might be nodding along thinking, yep, these furry friends are landlubbers for sure. But hold your horses, or rather, your goats. The reality is a bit more nuanced. You see, alpine goats, like many animals, are capable of swimming. Yes, you heard that right, they can swim. But before you go enrolling your alpine goat in the local swim club, let's clear up a few things. First off, these mountain-dwelling creatures are naturally more at home on rocky slopes than in the water. Their bodies are built for agile climbing, not streamlined swimming. And while they can swim, if necessary, it's not their preferred mode of transportation. Now imagine yourself wearing a thick, woolen coat, then jumping into a pool. It's not exactly a comfortable situation, is it? That's pretty much how an alpine goat feels when it gets wet. Their thick fur gets heavy when saturated, making swimming a bit of a chore. But here's where it gets interesting. If an alpine goat finds itself in a bit of a pickle, let's say caught in a flash flood or accidentally takes a tumble into a river, instinct kicks in. They won't win any speed records, but they will doggedly paddle their way to safety. So why the myth, you might ask? Well, simply put, alpine goats are smart. They know that staying dry is much more comfortable than getting soaked. They might not be Michael Phelps, but they can certainly hold their own in a puddle. So, next time you hear someone say, alpine goats can't swim, you can confidently burst their bubble with the truth. Remember, just because they don't like to swim, doesn't mean they can't. So, while you won't see an alpine goat at the Olympics, they can certainly hold their own in a puddle. Now let's tackle the myth that all alpine goats headbutt for fun. It's not all fun and games, folks. Enter the world of alpine goats, where headbutting is as much a part of their daily routine as grazing. However, contrary to popular belief, this isn't their idea of a fun pastime. It's a bit more serious than that. Let's delve into the nuances of this behavior. You see, goats, like many other animals, have their own unique way of communicating. For these agile creatures, headbutting is akin to a language, a physical dialogue, if you will. It's their way of saying, hey, this is my turf, or back off, I saw that patch of grass first. In the goat world, hierarchy is important, and headbutting is an effective way to establish dominance. It's a bit like an arm wrestling match except with more fur and less table. A strong headbutt can send a clear message of who's boss, and trust me, in the goat world, it's good to be the boss. The act of headbutting is not restricted to males alone. Female goats, or does, also engage in this behavior, albeit less aggressively. This is their way of establishing a pecking order among themselves, or deciding who gets the best grazing spot. And what about the kids, you ask? Well, headbutting is a learned behavior, and young goats practice it early on, honing their skills for future use. It's like their version of playground wrestling, a rite of passage in the goat world. But don't worry, it's not all about dominance and disputes. Headbutting can also be a sign of affection, similar to how cats rub against each other. It's their way of bonding, of saying, hey, you're part of my herd. So next time you see two goats locking horns, remember, it's not a game, it's a conversation. This is the secret language of the Alpine goats, a language of headbutts and horn locks. And now, you're in on the secret too. Last but not least, let's debunk the myth that Alpine goats are dumb. Brace yourself for a revelation. Now we've all heard the jokes and seen the memes, painting our horned friends as slow-witted or simple, but as it turns out, the joke's on us. The Alpine goat, far from being the village idiot of the animal kingdom, is actually quite the smarty pants. Yes, you heard that right. These animals are sharp, and they have a knack for problem solving that would probably make them great at puzzles if they had opposable thumbs. For instance, they can figure out how to open latches, navigate complex terrain, and even remember the location of food sources. And let's not forget they're excellent climbers, a feat that requires a certain level of intelligence and spatial awareness. But it's not just their problem-solving skills that set them apart. Alpine goats possess a remarkable level of curiosity. They're explorers at heart, always on the lookout for new experiences and information. You see, they're not just eating those tin cans because they're weirdly into recycling. No, they're investigating, learning about their environment in the most hands-on, or should we say mouths-on, way possible. In fact, studies have shown that goats, in general, have excellent long-term memory. They can remember complex tasks and recall them even after a long period has passed. They're even capable of distinguishing between different human expressions, which is more than we can say for some humans. So, let's put this myth to bed once and for all. Alpine goats are not dumb. They're problem-solving, environment-exploring, memory-retaining creatures with a curiosity that rivals our own. They're the Einsteins of the animal world, the Sherlocks of the farmyard, well, you get the idea. So, the next time someone calls you a goat, take it as a compliment. Well folks, we've had quite a journey. From garbage disposal myths to Olympic swimming dreams, we've covered it all. We've discovered that Alpine goats aren't the indiscriminate eaters they're often made out to be. They're rather picky eaters, preferring a diet of fresh greens rather than tin cans or shoes, and contrary to popular belief, they're not aquatic animals. They can swim if they need to, but they'd rather stay on dry land, thank you very much. We've also debunked the myth that all Alpine goats love a good headbutt. Sure, some do, but it's not a universal pastime. And who could forget the biggest myth of all, that these creatures are unintelligent? As we've seen, Alpine goats are far from dumb. They're clever, resourceful, and have a knack for problem solving. So next time you see an Alpine goat, remember, they're more than just a cute face and a can-eating machine. They're intelligent, capable animals with a flair for the dramatic. And hey, if you see one stuck up a tree, you know who to call. No, not the fire brigade. We've already established goats can't dial numbers.